Hello, my name is Jeremy, and today we're going to be talking about GCS. GCS is also known as the Glasgow Coma Scale, and it's the most commonly used. It's reliable, and it's a consistent tool to assess somebody's mental status and their neurological function. And that last part is really important, that neurological function, because you can have somebody that is awake and talking to you, but they can't move their body. And you can have somebody that's awake and can move their body, but they can't talk to you. So it's a scale for that neurological function, and it's very important that you're able to understand this, and it's going to help you do a better patient assessment. So it's broken up into three different categories. You have your eyes, your verbal, and your motor, and each category is only able to go from a minimum score of 1. And your max score is 15, your minimum is 3. Your eyeballs, your eyes, they are worth 4 points. Your verbal, that's worth 5 points, and your motor, that's worth 6 points. Now, the way that I was able to kind of go about remembering each of the categories is you have your eyes, you have somebody that has glasses, like I do. Growing up, people used to say, oh, you have 4 eyes. Well, there's 4 points in the eye category. If you have somebody that's eyes are open spontaneously, those are going to be worth 4 points. If you have somebody that you need to speak to be able for them to open their eyes, like, hey, wake up, and then they open their eyes, you can say that they get a 3 points for that. If you have somebody who their eyes don't open unless they have painful stimulus, that's going to be a 2. And if their eyes don't open at all, that's a 1. And this is also as your AFPU is where people get this from. So your alert, verbal, pain, unresponsive. And so it goes with that. Now with verbal, it's worth 5 points. So you have the Jackson 5. They were a group of singers, and they sang. So that goes with your verbal. If you have somebody that can have oriented speech, oriented conversation with you, they're going to be worth 5 points. If you have somebody that's confused in the slightest, you can make the argument that they're worth 4 points. So, for example, if you have somebody that was in a wreck and they don't remember the events leading up to, but they're confused about what happened, but everything else is functioning fine, you could say that they have a GCS of 14 or 4 points for their verbal, and everything else is fine, just because they're confused. Now, if you have somebody that they're using inappropriate words, so they're substituting the word purple for food or something like that. Something where there's words but they're not using them appropriately. They're appropriate words in other conversations, but they're just not appropriate for the conversation at hand. You could say that they have 3 points for their verbal, right? So 3 points is inappropriate words. If you have somebody that all they're doing is they're just making sounds, that is the point where you would give them 2 points for verbal. And if you have somebody that's not making any sounds, any noises, speaking at all, they're going to get 1 point total for their verbal. Now you have your motor, which is 6 points. So you can think about a V6 engine, V6 motor, and what that's going to do is that's just a tool to kind of use to remember that it's 6 points. If you have somebody that scores 6 points on it, they're going to be able to follow commands, and they're going to say, if you say, hey, touch your nose, they're going to be able to touch their nose. If you say, hey, squeeze my hands, they're able to squeeze your hands. Now, if you have somebody that scores 5 on motor, that's going to be they're localizing pain. And so the way that you can look at this is if you do a sternal rub or a trapezius squeeze on somebody who and they take their hand and they push your hand away, you can say that they have 5 points for that localizing pain. They know where that pain is coming from. For 4 points, if you have somebody that, again, you do the squeeze, you do a sternal rub, they try to shift away from that stimulus, that would be withdrawals from pain. Because you don't necessarily know that they even know where that stimulus is coming from. They just know that it's coming from that general direction, but they're not able to pinpoint it. And that kind of goes to that neurological function. And then so for 3 points for motor, that's going to be decorticate posturing. And this is going to let you know that they have a serious neurological upset And decordicate posturing is where you're flexing everything to your core, and that's where decordicate. So everything's kind of coming to the core. You have a flexion of your extremities. And then you have 2 points for decerebrate. Decerebrate posturing, that's everything's going away. Everything is going away from the body, and this is a significantly worse form of posturing. And so it's an extension. It's not a flexion, it is an extension. Decerebrate is the extension away from the body. And then you have 1. 1 is going to be none. So there's no motor output whatsoever. And so if you and I are having a conversation right now, I could have a GCS of 15 based off that 4 points for the eyes, 5 points for the verbal, 6 points for the motor. I'm able to follow commands. Now, if you have somebody who is confused about where they're at, you could say that they have a GCS of 14. They're just slightly confused. If you have somebody who, let's say they get shot in the head, and you get there and they're sitting up, and everything's going okay. As soon as you're walking up, you're doing your general assessment. But as soon as you get over there and you start doing your actual physical assessment on them, you say, hey, do you know what happened? You can see that their eyes are open, so they're looking at you. So that's going to be 4 points. They're able to reach out and touch you. So that's going to be 6 points for motor. But as soon as you ask them to speak, all they can make is sounds. That's going to let you know they get 2 points for their 2 points for their verbal. So if you have 4 points for your eyes, you have 6 points for your motor, and you only have 2 points for your verbal. It's going to give them a GCS of 12, even though under normal circumstances, would they be able to speak, you would say they have a GCS of 15. And again, that kind of lets you know that neurological function. That would let you know that she had an area of her brain that likely got aggravated and is not functioning as appropriately as possible. So the max score 15, and the minimum score is 3. So if you have somebody who's in cardiac arrest, you have somebody that's completely out, they would have a GCS of 3. And so those are the big key points for the GCS. And thank you.